precipitously drops again. And then even quicker, it shuts that blood supply off and begins to build up pressure, but again, there's been more blood loss. So you can see what happens. Every cycle of this opening, closing, there is less volume to the system. Ultimately, when there is not enough circulation to the control room to provide the oxygen and glucose that are needed, control room manager itself loses control, relinquishes control, and can no longer manage blood vessels, heartbeat, and breathing, causing death. This is the nature of Allen's statement that ultimately shock is the cause of death of us all. That ultimately it's the body's inability, the brain's inability to manage sufficient pressure and circulation to all the vital organs, particularly the control center of the brain. So what do we do about shock? Well, in an accident situation, the ultimate cure, or the ultimate solution for shock is to provide volume. That's why the only people that can really treat shock effectively and take care of it and reverse it are medical personnel who can provide IV fluids. That's why one of the first things that happens in a shock situation is provision of IV fluids by the ambulance personnel, because they are providing volume back to stop the shock cycle. They need to bolster the blood pressure. Okay, but what can we do to reduce it? Well, we can help someone be comfortable in a lying down position. We can elevate their feet 10 to 12 inches if there's no leg, hip, back injury, so that it helps gravity bring blood to the body core and vital organs, which makes it a little bit easier for the control room manager to stabilize blood flow. We can keep someone warm so that we don't put demand on their thermal system, so that they don't have to be generating a lot of heat. Of course, if it is already inordinately hot, we want to keep them cool. We want to keep them at a comfortable temperature so their body is not stressed by trying to control temperature on top of everything else. The reason there is so much overlap between internal bleeding and shock is that when you have massive external bleeding, the source of shock and the onset of shock is pretty obvious. But when you have internal bleeding, it can often be very hidden and occulted. If somebody takes a fall that causes a rupture or a cut, bleeding from an internal organ, then the control room manager can be losing their pressure without any sign to you. So, okay, you want to be alert for the signs of shock. If you detect shock, or if there's been an accident of sufficient importance, significant seriousness, make sure you call 911, 999, your emergency medical services, so that they can address shock directly.